Hello, and welcome to our third installment in the Lunch and Learn series for the Bicycle Friendly Communities program. My name is Subha Ramanathan, and I am the Manager of Programs and Partnerships for Share the Road. This session is about how voluntary bicycle registries can deter theft, thereby promoting ridership and enhancing bicycle friendliness of a community. We have two guest speakers today, and I will be facilitating the question and answer period. If you have any questions as you're listening to our presenters, please type it into the chat box and include what municipality or community you represent. We have plenty of time today to respond to your questions at the end of the session. A recording of the session and a copy of the slides will be posted to our website by the beginning of next week. So you don't have to furiously note down anything that you see on the slides. You will have a copy of your own at the end. Our first presenter today is Donna Williams. Donna is a customer success manager at Project 529, and she works to develop strong program admins and bridge the gap between sales and support. Donna is instrumental to onboard new partners throughout North America, and she works to develop new ways to help communities meet their goals, maximize their impact, and optimize use of the 529 Garage platform. Following Donna, you'll hear from Constable Ryan Cuthbert from the Patrol Division of Ottawa Police Services. Ryan is an avid cyclist who spearheaded Project Handlebar, and that's a proactive policing approach to returning stolen bikes to their owners. Ryan has educated his platoon members and fellow colleagues on how to initiate and follow through with a stolen bike investigation using tools like the 529 Garage and social media platforms. The goal of his work, of course, is to return stolen bikes back to their owners, and this has helped to create a positive police interaction within the community in Ottawa. So I will turn it over to Donna to take you through what Project 529 is all about.
Hi, everybody. I'm Donna with Project 529. Thank you so much, Subha and Share the Road, for being so gracious and giving us the opportunity today to talk about something we don't often get to talk about, which is how friendly is your bike registry. I am looking forward to hopefully just planting the seed to whoever's listening, that you might walk away and ask your own questions in your own community, taking a look at your own bike registry, and coming to your own conclusion about, how friendly your bike registry is. Next slide. So if we were to talk just about the nature of the crime, we'd probably need a whole week, but kind of breaking it down, it often surprises people about how big bike theft is. It's actually bigger than we think it is. It's broader than a property crime. Well, we estimate bike theft to be a $1 billion problem in North America. Next slide. So bike theft is a $1 billion economic problem, but the consequences, the impact, the magnitude of bike theft are much greater. So in an attempt to kind of help people visualize this, we use our own data. Project 529 has amassed a lot of data over the years, partly through our annual bike theft survey. And here are some of the numbers. I won't read them all to you, but some of the highlights here, I think, on this infographic that are startling to people is that less than 20% of owners actually know the serial number of their bike. Only 1 in 5 stolen bikes are actually reported to police. And as a result of that, only about 1% of bicycles are actually registered. And we estimate that about 95% of bikes that police seize and recover are actually going to charity or to auction. So Project 529 came into existence as a result of our founder being like thousands of other cyclists. He was a victim of bike theft. his bike got stolen. And when he started asking questions and in an attempt to try and get his bike back, I think he was surprised, like most people are, that there is no DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, for bikes. And that police are actually doing a decent job seizing and recovering bikes. They just don't know who they belong to. So the story goes, he set out to solve a problem, and the mission of Project 529 is to reduce bike theft by 50%. We used to say by 2025, but I think that's sounding really close now. So I just always stick to the first part of the mission. Our mission is to reduce bike theft by 50%. Next slide, please. So there's a couple of reasons, why bike theft. Well, the headline is the bad guys are often more organized than the good guys. So, bike thieves are tech savvy. They are able to steal bikes and use online marketplaces, and are kind of taking advantage of these bullets here. Increasing bike values, the increase in cycling. There's been so much media in the last year across the pandemic, during this pandemic, about the increase in cycling and the increase in bike theft. We get journalists really on a weekly basis asking us to contribute to articles, and we do what we can to try and get them to provide some instead of being a victim, what you can actually do to try and protect yourself and your bike from being stolen. But often, the media stories are focusing on the negative, the actual statistics of the actual crime, and how bike thieves really seem to be, better organized than the good guys. So next slide, please. Okay, so our founder, Jay Allard, was a victim of bike theft. And when he started taking a look at what was being done in terms of registering bikes, he found a lot of analog systems for registering bikes. So these, in the background, you'll see forms. These are actually forms that are from 2021, just localized bike registries. I think that, on a report card, maybe you give a point for somebody who's got a localized registry. It's not that we're like shaming them or anything. I think it's great that there's a bike registry that exists anywhere at all, but there's a couple flaws with localized bike registries. And, going back to the theme that the bad guys are better organized than the good guys, the problems with paper forms, are kind of obvious. They're error prone. They're kind of considered in terms of like form design. Who can access it? I work with partners who often are modernizing their localized system, and their pain point is that these paper forms are burdensome. Somebody it's usually the city side or the police side, is responsible for collecting these forms for the people who come into the office or the agency who want to fill out a form. And in today's digital world and utilizing data best practices, ideally, you wouldn't want to collect as much personally identifiable information on a form. I mean, it's a reason why people don't utilize a system like this. As you can see, although it's, it's blurry on purpose, but you can see, like, even in the top left-hand corner, the amount of information required on these localized forms is a deterrent to people actually using them. So when Jay created the Project 529 system, he wanted to collect as little information on the person and as much information on the bike. So one of the key differences between our system and a localized system is that the only thing that's required to register your bike using Project 529 is an email address. The cyclist then opts in to provide any additional information, and we're not asking for personal information like address. We're really asking for bike information. So localized bike registries can be modernized pretty quickly. They can be upgraded to the national system. It's just a matter of, swapping out the old system for the new system and updating your landing page. So the Project 529 system doesn't use paper forms. It gives people the option to self-register their bike 24/7. So self-registration is key. It's really putting the power into the cyclist's hand to make a decision about what information they want to provide in their bike registry. There's a feature set that, would take me an hour to describe. I'd encourage anybody listening to register their bike on Project 529 so you can kind of see for yourself all the things you can do. You can upload photographs. That makes it easy for police to be able to match the bike to the owner. On the back end of the system, it gives police the option to contact you, the cyclist, if they locate your bike and if you've opted in to allow police to contact you. And if you haven't opted in, if you want to remain anonymous, then police can use our platform to email you to let you know that your bike was recovered. So lots of features associated with specifically for end users that are cyclists, and lots of features for the back end of the system, which are police and the local governments who are actually subscribing to our services. And we even have a free tier of service for police. So that's a lot of information about, how our bike registry is different. I would just encourage everybody to, if you have a bike, to register a bike. It's free to register a bike, and you can use the brand new 529 Garage app. It's just been reversioned to register your bike, and it takes about 5 minutes to register your bike. Next slide, please. So a local bike registry, in theory, would work if a bicycle is registered and recovered in the same city. And then the police would be able to match that bike, which is registered, if the information is updated, like email address. They'd be able to match that bike that they've recovered to the owner. But the reality is, and we hear this from police, bikes legitimately and illegitimately move jurisdictions. So your bike, you may ride your bike to a different city, and where it is stolen, it might be recovered in a third place. Jay Allard knew he needed a system that would allow police to see data cross-jurisdictionally. So by registering your bike on 529, you're actually registering into the National Bike Registry system, and a police officer anywhere can log into the system, depending on what you've opted in for them to see, and be able to communicate to you if they've recovered your bike. So the key difference is that, it's digital, the data is secure, no one on the agency side needs to maintain the data. There are no resources required on the agency side in terms of end user support, customer support. That's on us. And we make it really easy for people to register a bike. And importantly, it's free. It's free to register a bike, and the only thing you need is an email address. It's available 24/7, works cross-jurisdictionally. Next slide. So we actually have free services that are not on this slide. The first one I already mentioned, it's free to register a bike. You can go to 529 Garage and use the app to register a bike, and you can, if you're a police officer and you have a verified law enforcement account, it's free for you to look up a bike. We give police the option, the ability rather, to see both registered and stolen bikes. So that's the reason for police to sign up for a free law enforcement account. But then we have another level, subscriber services. They start at about, in Canadian dollars, I think it's $28 a week. And these are very specifically for cities, towns like Ottawa, like Vancouver, like our hundreds of other partners throughout North America who want to make their bike registration system friendlier. And they want to make it easier for bikes to get registered. The success of bike recovery has everything to do with registration. So, when a new partner joins at either level, the first year, it's all about registration, registration, registration. So by signing up, and this would be an organizational account, so a city, a local government, police agency could sign up for a subscriber tier of service and get a whole host of other features that make it easy for people to register their bike and make it easy. It makes it a little easier for police to look up bikes, because as part of that service, we have a new app. So police can actually look up bikes from their smartphone in the field, on the beat. And you also get some account management services, but 2 tiers of services, one for maybe smaller communities, the other one, the community policing tier, really geared towards cities who've got hundreds or maybe even thousands of bikes in their property room. So for as little as $28 a week, we try and make it really affordable. Our pricing hasn't changed really since we printed the rate cards. A city can be out with the localized system, the paper forms, and be utilizing the National Bike Registry service. And the first thing we usually notice, everybody notices in terms of your data story and your reports and things that you can report to the brass or to people who are interested in knowing how successful your program is, you'll see an increase in the number of bikes registered, because this isn't a paper form. People can do it on their own. They can do it 24/7. We're not asking for personal information, so I believe it's a little more trusted. And people know that they need to have a repository for both their serial number of their bike as well as photographs. So photos are optional. Everything's optional but an email address, but you can add as much information as you want to, so that you are at the end of your 5-minute registration, you've got a really quality bike registration that matches bike to owner. And if you're a victim of bike theft and the police are using the service to look up your bike, you might be one of the lucky ones who actually gets their bike back instead of that bike going to auction or to charity. Next slide. So in conclusion, really, I just wanted to, show you a visual about kind of having to do with community policing. So most of the time when we're working with law enforcement partners who are paying that $28 a week for the fully featured platform, it's usually a community policing initiative. So our platform seems to speak to the objectives that police have for positive community engagement. And one of the ways in better days, especially, that they do this is by having face-to-face bike registration events. So the community love bike registration events. They usually, there have been pictures that we probably should have shared here about people lining up to get their bikes registered. It's an opportunity for police to engage positively with community. This is voluntary, so it's not like a mandatory system. And oftentimes it's a bike registration event takes place on a day when community police have got other things going on at a table. You can partner with local bike shops. And the community sort of, walks away with their bike registered. You get really quality registrations this way. As you can see, the hardest thing about registering your bike is finding the serial number. So the picture on the left is showing you what we call like a full bike registration. These police officers are probably taking about 4 minutes to register a bike. For a community cyclist, they might also be giving them a shield decal for the bike, which is a sticker that goes onto the bike, which makes it really easy for police to look up the bike. So shields are optional for registration, but they're usually used with bike registration events. The community likes them because if they were to buy a shield, I think they're about $10 in a bike shop. They usually can get one of those for free at a bike registration event. It makes it really easy for the cops to look up bikes. So they don't have to flip your bike over to, search based on your serial number. So as part of our services, we provide police with a whole host, like we call it a collateral library. So there's signage and there's artwork for t-shirts, and we even have artwork for the canopy and the table dressings. And you can see in the background, there are some brochures on a sandwich board there. So we can't really provide the paper or the printing, but we do provide a collateral library to support the program. So it's really plug and play. It's really plug and play. There's not much you need to do other than as an organization, as a city, local government, or police, other than, get the permission, required permissions in order to, replace your localized registry with this more modern approach, a more successful approach, a trusted approach, and an approach that works. It works for cyclists, it works better for police. And in the event that, you're a local government or an agency listening and you don't have any resources, zero money to put towards this, you don't have $28 a week, that'll never be approved, or you can't get it approved or don't want to, then we would just encourage you to encourage people to register their bike for free on Project 529. So it's free to register your bike, and it's free for police to access the database in order to look up bikes. So I think I'll hand it over to Ryan, who can talk about what Ottawa's done. And I think the great thing about how Ottawa has done, and it's really turned into a model for the rest of Ontario, and then even moving outwards from Ontario, is that when you're talking to police about resources, there just really aren't, there aren't many resources. And this is just another thing that they can use and can utilize, but there really isn't. It's highly unlikely that you're going to have an agency or law enforcement agency or RCMP detachment that is able to provide, police officers exclusively for Project 529. So I think what Ryan has done with Project Handlebar and these task forces that they've done, these are patrol officers who, on top of their ordinary duties, are able to do pretty cool things. We provide the tool, but it's really the people in the field and how they use the tool. And I think Ottawa is just an amazing example of what can be done. So toss the ball to Ryan.
Sure. Hi there. I'll just wait to thanks for the next presentation to pop up there.
Sure thing. I'll just get it to those slides. Donna, if actually wouldn't mind, before Ryan comes on, I do have two slides with data from Vancouver.
Oh, good.
And you'll notice that the picture on the screen here is of the Vancouver police in an event that they were running. So we do have some statistics from Vancouver. Our speaker, Detective Rob Brunt, was not able to make it today, but he did send in some information that Donna will be presenting to you about the effect of bike registry within the city of Vancouver.
Yeah, excellent. So Vancouver was the pilot city for Project 529. So Vancouver was looking for a solution at the same time that Jay Allard, our founder, was trying to build a solution. And the two of them met miraculously, really at the perfect timing. And so we've got really good data from Vancouver. So going back several years, I believe that they're reporting now that bike theft in the city of Vancouver is down 40% since using Project 529. Their program there is quite mature in that they know what works. They're able to host bike registration events in the city of Vancouver during the cycling season. Several bike registration events a week. So bike registration events are a really good way, like I said, for police to have positive contact with community, but you also get really good bike registration data out of that because you're going through all the 7 screens to register that bike, add the photos, of course, with the cyclist's permission. So if you're curious about statistics, and most people are, the best place to see smaller cities and how they've done using our platform is to go to our website and look at press articles. So in the press articles, other smaller places are reporting successes with Project 529, you don't need to be a city as big as Vancouver to, benefit from the system. But I think that if the effort is put into the registration part of it, and the effort is put into working with partners to promote the program to community, I think the expectation is that bike theft will probably go down in your city, and that your city maybe is a little friendlier. It's a little bit friendlier for cycling. So here, this is a chart that shows the trajectory of bike theft in Vancouver. So the red line, as you can see, this is likely where bike theft was headed. In the middle is kind of where Project 529 was deployed. And as you can see, bike theft compared to where it would have been in 2018 without utilizing the system, and where it's at right in 2018. And as of, I think I just mentioned that the current statistics, which I think you can see on the Vancouver Police Department website, are showing a 40% reduction in bike theft. And I think in Ottawa, there's some statistics as well. And they've just been using the system for about 18 months. So, I'm not a statistician. I would encourage anybody who's interested in bike theft stats to work with their local police department and ask the questions. And if you're curious about, how friendly is my current bike registry, I have an audit list. There's a list of questions that I have that I share with people. And these are questions not to inquisition the chief of police or anything like that, but it's questions that you can use in looking at your own localized bike registry system, and hopefully will help you come to a conclusion about how friendly is the system, how friendly is it to use, how effective is it? And it's just a kind of a nice way to audit your current state, your current bike registry. Next
Fabulous.
slide.
Thank you, Donna. And I'll just
you're
add that Detective Brunt estimates that in 2018, the deterrence of bike theft shows an $8 million savings. And that is using an estimate of $700 per bicycle. So there is a significant return on investment in the $28 a week can result in significant savings to residents within your municipality. And that's why we're doing all of this. So now I'll turn it over to Ryan, Constable Ryan Cuthbert of Ottawa Police Services.
So I guess the purpose of my presentation here is just to introduce how Ottawa Police Service kind of introduced 529 Garage into the city and then how it's being utilized now. There's a lot of different ways that it was promoted and how officers now are using it. The biggest thing is to get a stolen bike back to its owner. I'll let you move to the next slide there and just explain how we've been doing it. A big thing when the rollout of 529 Garage came was through the bike shops. All of the bike shop workers and the mechanics, they know about these bikes. They see the bikes all day long. They know how expensive they are. They hear the stories of somebody having their bike stolen, and helping them help register a bike immediately after a person or as the person is buying it has helped really promote the program, as well as definitely increase the number of people that are actually registered on the app. The Ottawa Police have also partnered with, I think, almost every bike club in the city. Not everyone is as pro-police as other ones, but there's the Ottawa Mountain Bike Club, there's the Ottawa Bike Club, there's the Canadian Club, there's a seniors bike club, there's a women's bike club. So just approaching them and suggesting, hey, this is what we're trying to get everyone to utilize so everyone's on the same page. And if we can get everyone to promote it, whether it's word of mouth, whether it's an email broadcast, informing them of registration days, which I get to next, and just like kind of giving everybody a heads up, or maybe the main person of the club, the president of the club, just to try to push it to help spread the word, because once it spreads, we've noticed that that's our best PR. And so that's been a huge help trying to get people on board, getting people to understand how the actual program and the app works, as well as just letting them know that this is what the police are trying to use. And if everybody buys in, it makes everything a little bit easier, whether it's getting us to find your bike or to return your bike that's been stolen. The registration days that Ottawa's had has been super successful in just trying to get people to actually register. As Donna mentioned, that we have it's a pretty flawless, easy couple of steps that happen. Same thing, we kind of go to very high density bike areas where either downtown or there's a lot of bike, like the weekends, there's all the parkways are closed here in the city so people can bike on them. So we'll go to certain sections where we know either people park or all the bikers have to go by, and just set up a tent and tables and have information packages and just help people, make it super easy for them to register. That, as well as just creates like the word of mouth, and then everybody sees the tent or they start asking questions, and then we just make it super easy for them to register. And we explain to them the problem that's going on in the city. And most people, especially that have invested quite a bit of money into the bike, are completely on board right away. And there's not really much to them having to do much after, unless their bike has actually been stolen, or if they're actually kind of vigilant and paying attention to other bikes that have been stolen within the city. The next big thing is that we had a lot of media awareness. So the Ottawa Police use their Twitter account, their Twitter feed, there's Facebook, as well as just general media broadcasts of articles that have been published online and within the newspapers here, just promoting the app itself and the program, as well as maybe good kind of like feel-good news stories that happened where a family got all their bikes back that had been stolen while they're away on holidays, kind of thing, which happens quite often, almost pretty much daily here now. And they've had a lot of like really good stories, or where people came towards the media and said, "Hey, this is what actually happened," not even kind of asking the police, like, "Hey, if you want to, this is what happened, I'd like to kind of go forward," but they kind of came forward on their own. And a lot of those stories have been shared, which has also caused a lot of good attention for 529 Garage and getting more people to register, which has been super successful for all of us here. I'll have to go to the next slide. So one of the big things that I would suggest, if anyone's listening that doesn't have the program initiated in their city, and they're kind of having the police on board, is obviously ideal, because we can do a lot more than the average person. Like if we can find a bike, we can instantly take it. Or if we haven't found a bike that's been stolen, we can instantly take it. We can cut locks off, no problem. And then we can get it back to the owner immediately, as opposed to maybe somebody in the bike community seeing that your bike was reported stolen and finding it, but it's locked with 6 locks on a random street corner downtown, or maybe in a super sketchy crack house or something like that, which tends to happen quite a bit. So we can actually go there, remove all the locks, take the bike, and then get it back to the owner. So having us on board with this is huge in returning these bikes back. If I could, a personal suggestion, that if the police service is thinking about initiating this, or you're approaching somebody, if you could get somebody, an officer that is kind of a cyclist themselves, so they know the difference between maybe like a low end bicycle from like Canadian Tire that was bought on sale for maybe $129 versus a super high end road bike that's used in racing, or a mountain bike that has very expensive components, carbon fiber. Someone that bikes can instantly tell the difference between one of the bikes, as well as can easily see that a lot of the bike thieves try to modify a bike after they've stolen it, so it doesn't create that much attention by the police once they have it. But some of it is completely obvious, and they just butcher or kind of zombie like. It's called like they Frankenstein these bikes to make it. You have a very nice, great, amazing high-end road bike, and now it's been butchered down to, it looks brutal. The brakes are different, the wheels are different, They've painted the frame like a super ugly color, and it just looks like maybe like a street bike that's been passed around in the shelters, but it's still maybe an $8,000 road bike underneath that brutal paint that they put on it. So having an officer that's actually savvy in bikes and knows the difference plays a huge role, because they understand that, well, this is maybe an $8,000 road bike or a mountain bike. It doesn't make sense that it's thrown over the fence at this random park here. It doesn't make like no owner that who actually bought this would have done this. So we've had a lot of success with officers that know the difference between the mountain bikes, the components. They see where the value is in the bike, and they instantly are able to act on it and start doing something and start kind of investigating and figuring out how to get it back to the owner. The other great thing that it's been is this kind of falls under a community police program, and Ottawa Police has had countless positive interactions where we've been out in the community. We're talking to a lot more people that are kind of victims of crime, and unfortunately, stealing a bike is not the highest priority on a police services agenda, but there's still, it happens so often, and there's so many victims that like it's starting to become a thing just because of the sheer numbers of bikes that are being stolen, and the victims coming forward saying, I've had my bike stolen, but regardless of the amount of the cost of the bike, there's just been so many good things that have came about it that it's good for the police service, and they jump on these interactions and they jump on these situations where it's a positive for the community and it's positive for police. And especially nowadays, there's a lot of very negative like attention towards the police. These things are kind of changing the ways that people are thinking and realizing that there is stuff being done. And even though this is a low priority, it is just a property crime, but the police are doing things about it, and they're actually proactively trying to search for your bike and getting it back to you, which is, any police chief will jump on something like that. So if they ever are wondering how it's happening at other police services, you could easily talk to Ottawa or Vancouver and see, like, this is a good program and it's helping a lot, and if there's a direct correlation to positive interactions with police and the community. Let's go to the next one there, if you don't mind. A good thing that's has been happening a lot in Ottawa is what we're trying to promote is just the use of these social media accounts to make people aware of that your bike has been stolen, and to help the police get it back for you. So when we're talking to people out on the street, a lot of people don't make a police report because they don't think the police will do anything, which kind of puts us in a funny situation, because we have to do a lot more digging, and we could get bikes a lot faster if people have made the reports, and we can also help lay charges to find on people if we have them either stealing a bike or in possession of a stolen bike. A big thing that's been here in Ottawa is somebody randomly made a Facebook stolen bikes group Ottawa, and word had spread because there's been so much success to people posting that they had their bike stolen. They put up a picture, maybe the neighborhood that they had stolen from, and then there's now the officers just check that group right away, and it's at the point where someone like myself, I can see someone where I posted a bike within a day or so, and I can literally go to the spots knowing where all these stolen bikes end up and find it and get it back to them within the same day, even sometimes, which is pretty remarkable considering like how fast the turnaround is on some of these bikes. And obviously 529 Garage has been huge. So we tell everybody, listen, the best way to get your bike back by the police is to put it out on 529 Garage, so then everybody in the bike community is aware of it. Put it on Stolen Bikes Ottawa Facebook group. So again, even more people are kind of there's more eyes kind of looking for your bike, as well as make a police report. So then the police can use all three, and then we can track an owner down, we can find that the bike's being stolen, and we can get it back to you pretty quick. And again, a lot of success stories from the Facebook group. As funny it is, people just are also posting pictures of, hey, there's this random bike unlocked against this maybe bus stop on a random street corner. It doesn't make any sense, or it's kind of strange. Know who it is, or they'll go and take it and make a police report and then broadcast it out. Let's say we have it, contact me and I can help get it back to you. So lots of success through obviously all three of these portals in order to report that your bike's being stolen. Next slide. This is just a quick slide of like, I think the biggest thing that needs to happen in order to have this project and this program utilized and successful is that you need the buy-in from the bike community. Having 529 Garage just simply has thousands more eyes looking for your bike. There's a lot of police officers that will proactively go out and try to look for your bike, but there's a ton of police officers that don't know the difference between bikes, nor is it like an interest of theirs to actually do this proactively, and it's super busy for them. So they've maybe decided to focus on something else or a different problem in their neighborhood, or depending what's important with the area that they work. So if you have the buy-in from the bike stores, from the bike groups, from the avid cyclists, from just the volunteers that are kind of know about bikes and things like that, and all the different groups, they're the ones that need to push the word of mouth and give out the story saying, I had my bike stolen, I had it up on 529 Garage, this person randomly got it back to me, I got a message from the police, they found it instantly. All of these things, which I think is what helps the program, really promotes it, and what's making it so strong here in Ottawa right now, because there's been so many people that have utilized the program and that have gotten their bike back. And these people have invested thousands and thousands in their bike and lose it sometimes instantly after they bought it to years after they bought it. And there's a lot of sentimental value to these bikes for some people. And I got a bike back to an older gentleman the other day, and he said he biked all across Europe in it. And this bike was like his little, like his baby almost. And I had it stolen out of his car. I found it ditched in kind of like this neighborhood randomly. I just thought it was weird that there was a bike there. And then I tracked him down through the app and was able to get back to him. And he was just elated that he finally got it back. He was kind of worried because he was never going to be able to replace exactly what he had. So to have that buy-in for the bike community is, I'd say, the biggest thing, just for the support for the PR and word of mouth, just to make it the program even stronger. So that's kind of everything I had there. If anyone has any questions on how to initiate this with the police in their city, if it's not already, or the town, you can email me anytime, and I can help kind of let you know what Ottawa's done and the success we've had, and the things that we've noticed really helps, and maybe the things that we've noticed that maybe didn't help so much, and can help anybody start initiating it. So that's it for me, unless there's any questions or anything like that.
Thanks so much, Ryan. You mentioned that anyone could contact you if they'd like to know more about how to initiate the program. I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about what Project Handlebar was like prior to using it in concert with the bike registry, the bike registry app, Project 529, and what changed once you had created that partnership.
So when Ottawa Police kind of initially rolled out 529 Garage, there was a project called Project Hot Wheels. So a couple officers were helping try to get it going and getting the word out, and were able to be pretty successful and got quite a few bikes back to their owners. And they brought me on board just because they knew I liked the bike. And I've been, the area that I work here in the city is called the Market. So there's right now there's 4 very large homeless shelters, which a lot of these bike thieves tend to stay at. And then these stolen bikes tend to end up in the Market. There's almost like these hotspots where they dump them all the time, and I see them all the time on them. So I was kind of doing this just randomly on my own. So they kind of included me in this. And once Project Hot Wheels was over, we were having so much success that I wanted to create something that was going to keep it going, just because we're doing so well. And so the platoon I'm on, which is D platoon, not everybody is a cyclist, or not everybody knows a lot about bikes. So what I did was I just kind of educated everybody, explaining to them, this is how you can initiate a simple stolen bike investigation, of how the powers that the police have using the Highway Traffic Act in order to stop a cyclist for whatever, maybe an infraction that they carry out, which is simple as not stopping at a stop sign, let's say, or no bell on the bike, or no light on the bike at night, or there's quite a few different things that under the Highway Traffic Act the cyclist has to have on their bike, or the rules of the road that they have to follow, which allows an officer to stop a cyclist, and they have to identify themselves, or they're arrestable until their identity can be revealed. So in the middle of the night, there's a lot of these guys that are floating around trying to break into people's garages, trying to break into people's sheds, stealing their bike. We can legally stop them, identify them, and then we can start checking on the bike. We can see, check the serial number, check the app, check the Facebook group, identify this person, identify what they're wearing, and then kind of link them back to maybe a report that's been made, or it's going to be made, or and just try to figure out who this person is, how do they have this bike, whose bike is it, how do we get it back to the owner if it is stolen. So I just let all my colleagues know how simple it is to start that, and then explain to them and give them the knowledge of the different makes and models of bikes, and explain to them why this is an expensive bike versus this, like why these components are expensive, why this brand, these models, this is the difference between a road bike and a mountain bike. These types of frames are carbon fiber or more aerodynamic, which instantly makes them more expensive. Like you can get computer systems, carbon fiber wheels versus just kind of regular spokes, and just kind of gave them the knowledge that if you see these brands out and about, or in places that kind of don't really make sense, like in a rooming house, where if you walk into a rooming house and there's 15 high-end bicycles there, that's kind of weird. It's not the normal. Like most cyclists who have a very expensive bike protect this bike. Like they put it up in their garage, or they hide it in their basement, or they clean it, or they do all these things to take care of it so they can use it all the time, and so it's not stolen. And you walk into a crack house and you see a big pile of very like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 bikes all piled up on the couch. It's kind of weird. And instead of just walking past it, maybe just kind of take a look at them, run them through either our system or the app, and just kind of take a look, find the serial number, and then we can start getting these bikes back to people. So everyone kind of jumped on board, I think more or less just to help me out. And our request was to get 100 stolen bikes back to their owners. And by having more officers on board, that expanded our area, because I kind of work in a certain sector. Not that I can't go anywhere else, but there's other officers that work in different parts of the city downtown where I don't usually go to, just because I'm more or less in the sector that I control. So it's just, again, more eyes in a different part of the city. And so up to, I think it was yesterday, we've gotten 95 bikes back. I just need 5 more to kind of reach our goal. On top of that, we find abandoned bikes all the time. So we'll grab them and then lodge them in property with the hope of either finding an owner or waiting for a report to come in saying that they've had this bike lost or stolen. And then we can help get them back by way of that. And at least we have their bike safe in the property section. So the value of the bikes that we've gotten back are anywhere from $100, a couple $100 to $4,000 or $5,000. And the total, I think we're probably well over $120,000 in value of bikes that have been recovered. which is kind of crazy. And that's just a small number of officers here in Ottawa that have been doing this, not even the whole city. So these stats are solely from my platoon, which is about just over 20 people working in the downtown core. Unfortunately, like, the downtown core is where there's a very high number of bike thefts, mainly linked to the homeless shelters. And we've had a lot of success because a lot of us now know where these bikes get dumped, where these people tend to hang out. And these bikes, especially if it's a very expensive bike, it is used for, you can sell it right away. A lot of people will buy a very $4,000 mountain bike for $20 easily all over the place. So these bikes are being used as almost like a currency. They can sell them for drugs, they can sell them for money, they can sell them for sex, they can trade them for things. And if these bikes get passed around and passed around, eventually ditched, or they get scooped by an officer who just knows the value of the bike and sees that it doesn't make sense that it's here, and has initiated an investigation.
Yes, and I think you've made a very interesting point to say that this is it may be, bike theft may be a low priority crime in terms of other crimes that police must address, but it is something that's fairly widespread and where there are multiple components and issues at play, and it can cross jurisdictions. And so this is an ideal crime that can be addressed using technology tools, and that's what Project 529 has provided. Are there any questions of those who have tuned in today? Do you have any questions for our speakers today in relation to your own communities? I know we have a representation from Waterloo and other communities in Ontario. Do you have any specific questions for our speakers today about how a project like this may be implemented within your communities? And while you're formulating your question, Donna, if you wouldn't mind unmuting and just giving us a sense of how quick can this be set up? How quick can a bike registry be set up once a council has elected to go ahead and do this, or police services has elected to go ahead and do this? How long does it take?
Well, once you've identified your program admin, that would be like the champion of the project, the executive sponsor, and you're ready to actually configure an account. We've made it really, really easy. There's no, you don't need any tech skills to configure an account. You just need a laptop or a desktop, and you use our tools, which includes a landing page builder, to very easily, with no programming required, build your bike registry page. And I work with our admins who need help doing that. But generally, I'd say that you can configure an account in an hour, believe it or not. And then the work of actually, as Ryan mentioned, promoting the program to community, working in the beginning with partners, trusted partners who can help you spread the word, working with local media. I think Ottawa, actually, their report card would be like gold star, A+. They, from the minute they started an account, configured it to launch, it might have been 3 weeks. And launch meaning you've got bike registration events published and promoted to the community. You've got police and volunteers who have completed training, which is really not that big of a deal. We make it pretty easy for volunteers to register bikes at events. I would say 3 weeks is probably pretty accurate. And if you wanted to do it quicker, we probably could get your community going quicker. The hard part is actually, as Ryan mentioned, by the buy-in. So oftentimes these local registries you're bound by bylaws and something that needs to change politically in order to get approval to swap it out. So some communities like Ottawa are super fast and can get it done in 3 weeks. There's others we've been working with for years to try and just talk it up the flagpole and get it approved by the people that need to, approve it. But of course, there's those two other things you can do. If you're a cyclist, you can register your bike for free. You don't need any approval for that. And if you're a police officer and you just want access to the database to look up bikes, that is very easy to do and is easy going to our website and just signing up for a law enforcement, a free search account.
So on that note, Donna, there's a question from Louise in Waterloo who's asking, how do you know if your police services are participating in Project 529? And with that, it may not be that there's an official partnership in place. There may not be an official program with a registration blitz that has taken place. How do you know if there are officers within your community who have elected to have a free account to look up bikes? How do you know if they're using it?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have a partner page on our website. So if you're curious, you could look there and see if your community is listed or your police organization is listed, or you could send us an email. You could send it to me. You could send it to support@project529.com. And we can reply a little more comprehensively. We can tell you if there are bike shops in your area or advocacy groups who might be promoting the system or providing shield decals. But certainly if it's Waterloo that you're asking, about and happen to be situated in Waterloo, we've been in talks with them, but I think the officer there has, I think he's retired. And, for Project 529 we're a 3-person team. And so our resources go back into the system, back into building features for end users like cyclists and building features for the police. So we don't have marketing, we don't do sales. So we often get asked the question, like, why don't the police in my town know about you, or why? Well, it's just a matter of us just having our own issues with resources, not really, we don't spend money on advertising or marketing. It's really through word of mouth and officers like Ryan who take time out of their day to do outreach events like this one. And, the word spreads so slowly. So if you're an individual, if you're a cyclist in your city, you'd be surprised at how much power you actually have. And it's often, it can be an individual in a town who sends in that question to support@project529.com and goes into their local bike shop and tells their local bike shop about Project 529. It's free for bike shops to sign up for an account. And then it's just levels of engagement from there. So if you're interested in just knowing, you could go to the partner page and just take a look. If you're interested in doing, you could send us an email and we can provide you with some tips for getting started, whether you want to get, just promote it to your local bike shop or promote it to your cycling group or just register bikes for your friends and family. There's just numerous ways that just individuals can learn more about the program and can actually help us with boots on the ground, kind of promote the program to their own communities.
Great, thanks so much, Donna. And we have reached the end of the session. So I'm just going to close this by letting you know about the next Lunch and Learn session. The final session will be on Thursday, September 9th from 12 to 1 once again. And our presenters, Dave McLaughlin and Sean Smith from WSP Canada, will be talking about the key updates to the Ontario Traffic Manual Book 18. So the sign up and registration is on our website listed at the top of this slide. And thanks once again for tuning in today. Thank you to our speakers, Donna and Ryan, for sharing their time with the Bicycle Friendly Communities program. And the information from today will be on our website for download, and we hope to see you in September. Bye for now and have a wonderful day.
See you later.